Welcome back to We Dream, a podcast from Dream.org, a national nonprofit working to close prison doors and open doors of opportunity into the green economy. Together, we're building a future rooted in freedom, dignity, and opportunity for all. This season, we're reimagining a justice system that puts people over punishment and creating space for real discourse at a crossroads moment for criminal justice in America. We'll explore what an empathy-centered system could look like, dig into proactive, evidence-based approaches to public safety, and critically analyze the tough-on-crime perspectives and policies of the current administration that threaten to undo real progress. I'm Naomi Garcia-Hector.
And I'm Janos Martin.
This is episode 10 and part 2 of our Leading with Empathy series. And before we get into today's main segment, which features more great conversation with the advocates who are leading the charge across Dream.org Justice for All campaigns, per usual, just wanted to get a few thoughts on recent news. Just several days ago now, we found out that Attorney General Pam Bondi was fired. Janos, want to give you a chance to give some thoughts there.
Yeah, not a lot to say. It's not as if we were huge fans of Pam Bondi as Attorney General, but this really dates back to the end of the first Trump administration, where Trump began to see the Department of Justice as his personal fiefdom and his personal legal office rather than what it's supposed to be doing, which is advancing justice without fear of favor and political influence. That was a problem at the end of the first Trump administration. Out of the gate in this administration, it really seemed like Pam Bondi was largely doing Trump's bidding on issues ranging from the Epstein files to political prosecutions. It seems like maybe she wasn't doing enough for his satisfaction, and whoever he's bringing in next is going to be even more obsequious. This is why we elevate issues around federal criminal justice policy on this podcast and in our work around the country, because you really can't have trust in a federal criminal justice system that has so much power if that power is being deployed in a way that's clearly political and personal and not about the facts of the case. That's what I'm worried that we're going to get from whoever comes after her, too.
Absolutely. And who are we going to chat with today for our 2 segments?
Yes. On a brighter note, we've started last episode talking about some really great work that's happening at the state level, even while all this chaos is happening federally. So today we're going to be hearing from 2 advocates who have been instrumental in passing legislation in their states this session. One of them, Selena Coomer from Kentucky, is part of a group of a bunch of formerly incarcerated advocates in Kentucky. They've had a remarkable track record the last number of years. And then our own Senior Director of Organizing and Partnerships, Sean Wilson, who before he was with Dream.org, was an organizer on the ground in Wisconsin and has been involved ever since. He was part of the team that passed the first criminal justice bill to get through the Wisconsin legislature in at least a decade. And we're going to hear about the impact of that bill and what they plan to do from here.
Amazing. We'll learn more about leading with empathy. Let's dive right in.
All right, Sean Wilson, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me, Janos.
It's your first time on the podcast, but you've been with us for a long time. So why don't you just give people listening or watching a little bit of your background and how you came to this moment?
Absolutely. My name is Sean Wilson from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Honestly, how I came to this moment or how I came to Dream.org was, through organizing. When I was incarcerated, I found myself, already bringing people together, already helping individuals navigate these systems and trying to help people create pathways for others. Looking back, that was organizing, right? I didn't have the language for organizing back then, but when I reflect back on those moments, in fact, those were organizing moments. When I came home, I just essentially continued that work. First starting out with Youth Justice Milwaukee, doing a lot of work around closing down Leakin Hills and Copper Lakes, and then going on to the American Civil Liberties Union of Wisconsin, where I helped lead a statewide campaign to end crimeless revocation, what we often call technical revocations. From doing that work for a period of 4.5 years, I got the opportunity to start doing this work a little bit more intentionally at the national level here at Dream.org.
We met during that time when you were at the ACLU. You were part of the National Smart Justice Campaign, and we were all doing work all over the country. I know you worked on Amendment 4, among other things. And so we could spend this whole time talking about all your national work, but you are first and foremost a Wisconsinite, and you've been dealing with not only the Wisconsin system from when you were incarcerated, but the whole time since you've been back. So tell me, what is it about Wisconsin that makes it so hard to pass criminal justice reform?
Wisconsin has historically been built around this punishment first approach. A lot of the reform has been slowed by this tough on crime politics in a supervision system that sends too many people back to prison for technical revocations, right? This is one of the biggest drivers to Wisconsin state prisons annually. The work that we have to do, or that we have been doing over the last couple of years, is helping people understand that reform is actually about public safety. It's about stability. It's about helping people understand that they themselves are one step away from a jail cell, given how the correctional system is structured here in Wisconsin. That should not be the case, right? The correctional system or the justice system in Wisconsin or throughout the country should ensure that everyone has their day in court and that they should be dealt with fairly, and that they should get the treatment and the support that they need to not only navigate the justice system, but upon their release from this system, they should have the support that they need to navigate the reentry process. Over the last couple of years, it's just been this tough on crime mind frame that has caused justice reform to be slowed here in the state of Wisconsin.
For people who are not as familiar with Wisconsin, this is a state where there's been a Democratic governor and a Republican legislature for the last while, right? 6 years. Yeah. That also has made it difficult to get things done. They're always at each other's throats and not wanting to give each other wins. So it's a place where many organizations have tried to pass criminal justice legislation, both local organizations and national organizations, without much success. But we finally have some good news out of Wisconsin. Can you share with people a little bit about the bill that passed recently?
Absolutely. AB 604. I mean, there's not really much to share other than that this bill will save lives. This bill ensures that first stretch after a person is released, which is the most dangerous, in my opinion, as someone who has navigated the reentry process. This is that first stretch, that first 30, 60, 90 days is the most dangerous period of a person's reentry, especially when we're thinking about overdose, when we're thinking about mental health crisis. Those are the most critical moments for individuals when they're returning home from prison. This bill, AB 604, helps ensure that people are coming home with a continuity of health, that they have medication and that they have support, and that they're not going to fall through the cracks. This is not just health policy, this is public safety, because we want to ensure that as individuals are navigating the reentry process, that their mental health breakdowns, that their overdose crises aren't going to infect the public that is surrounding them. So AB 604 in a nutshell is going to save thousands of lives. In fact, I like to go a step further and say that AB 604 is Wisconsin's First Step Act, right? This is the first step first piece of legislation in the state of Wisconsin that had bipartisan support. As you mentioned, you know, we've had a Democratic governor for the last 7 years and a Republican legislature who's been at gridlock. To have this legislation pass that does the things that it does is impactful and, in fact, is a first step, man. And I'm excited for the direction that we're heading as a state.
That's great. I mean, congratulations to you and the team that worked on it. And it always, makes you feel good when you pass a bill that you know the second it's signed into law, it's going to start helping people. This isn't one of those things where you have to wait several years and see. We just know it's going to make an impact from the jump. In terms of what's next on the docket in Wisconsin, you talked about supervision a little bit earlier. We know that we know Wisconsin has one of the worst supervision policies in the entire United States. That's something we're trying to do something about. So you want to tell people what's next for Wisconsin?
Absolutely. I think Wisconsin is at a turning point. I think that as it pertains to supervision reform, we have two pieces of legislation that is authored by Senator Dora Drake that is being shopped around for co-authors and co-sponsors. This legislation will begin to undo the harm that decades of this supervision system have caused on individuals, families, and communities all across the state of Wisconsin. I would say that the next major frontier in Wisconsin is supervision reform. Just recently, last week, Governor Evers has now reinstated commutations, right? Which is a major step forward and recognizing rehabilitation and second chances for individuals who are currently inside. So many people have so much hope as a result of the governor reinstalling commutations, right? We have a prison system that is currently overcrowded. We have individuals who are who has been in prison for 20, 30, 40 years, and now they have a glimmer of hope. I'm excited for these families, and I'm excited for the men who I, walked the rec yard with, who were my cellmates. I'm excited for them to have the opportunity to regain their freedom and re-enter society and be an asset to their communities that they come from, and that they understand that they had a hand in contributing to some of the harm that we're witnessing today. I'm excited that Wisconsin is moving in this direction. If we pair commutations, supervision reform, reentry investments, if we pair all of these things, we have a chance to really modernize the system here in Wisconsin. I'm excited that directly impacted individuals all across the state have had a hand in steering this conversation and rolling out these reforms.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really promising. I'm going to ask you one more question, because when you talk about directly impacted people leading across the state of Wisconsin, we've been talking here about policy, about legislation. But you're the Senior Director of Organizing and Partnerships, which means you're also the architect of our Dream Justice Cohort. We had a couple of people who have been through our cohort on various episodes of this podcast, and we have another one who's going to be part of this episode. So can you just talk a little bit about sort of what you hope to accomplish every year with the Dream Justice Cohort and what you've seen from its graduates around the country?
Thank you for that question, because the Dream Justice Cohort is our flagship program. More than our flagship program, it is pipeline into the movement. Many of these individuals who go through our cohort, they come with several tools in their tool belt. When they leave or graduate from our cohort, they graduate with some additional tools, advocacy tools in their tool belt that makes them a little bit more effective in their advocacy. We're grateful for the opportunity to be able to partner with these folks when they have a campaign idea to tackle legislation in their respective states. When we partner with these folks, we win. I appreciate the invitation that we get from them to push legislation forward in their states and to be a thought partner and a collaborator and to get into some good trouble with them. This cohort is a movement pipeline. It's a pipeline into the movement. And I know our applications just closed, but I advise your audience to be on the lookout for when the application link drops next year for this cohort, because it is a cohort that you want to be a part of, but it's a cohort that you want to be able to build relationships with individuals who are also going through this cohort, who are of like mind and are committed to dismantling the system of mass incarceration in this country.
Well, I look forward to meeting this year's group, and thanks for all the great work over the last 5 years, churning out leaders around the country to do this work. So thank you, Sean. We'll be hearing from you again. Selena, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. How are you? It's good to be here.
I'm doing great. Very excited to see you. So, as always with our guests, we love to hear a little bit about their origin story. Can you tell us how you got into this work before we dive into the bills and everything you've been working on?
Well, my story really starts with my own lived experience. I'm someone who's been directly impacted by the justice system and substance use. I know what it feels like to try to rebuild your life while carrying barriers that don't go away just because you've done the work. What I realized in my own journey is that recovery isn't just about getting sober. It's about having access to housing, employment, and dignity. A lot of our systems aren't built to support that. I started getting involved at the community level first, and then grew into advocacy, working with lawmakers, organizations, and providers to fix the gaps I experienced firsthand. Today, through Lane 13 Consulting and the work I do across Kentucky, I get to bridge the gap between lived experience and policy, making sure the people most impacted actually have a voice in the decisions made.
Well, that's great, and I've seen your growth in that space firsthand. One of the things that's impressed me for years is the sort of close-knit and successful organizing and advocacy work of directly impacted people in Kentucky. This is a state that probably isn't known for a lot of its big reforms or progressive victories on on other issues. But on criminal justice, I know people have worked together in a bipartisan way there for years and had a lot of success. Can you just tell me a little bit about, what's the scene over there? What is it that makes the Kentucky criminal justice community so successful at what it does?
I think Kentucky has actually made some really meaningful progress in the last few years. We've seen stronger conversations around reentry, increased attention to recovery services, and bipartisan willingness to look at things like expungement and workforce integration. One of the biggest successes is that people are finally recognizing that public safety and second chances can go hand in hand. When people have access to stable housing, treatment, and employment, communities are safer. It's just common sense. But we still have challenges. Our systems are so fragmented. Criminal justice, behavioral health, housing, they don't always talk to each other, and people fall through the cracks because of that. We also still have policies that create long-term barriers, even for people who have done everything the right way. While we've made progress, the next step for me is alignment, making sure our policies actually support long-term recovery and reintegration, not just short-term fixes.
Gotcha. Well, one of the bills that you've been working on, and I know this has been a multi-year effort with a lot of people coming together on this, is this family preservation bill. So it's passed the legislature. Congratulations on that. We're waiting for Governor Beshear to officially sign it, but tell us, what will it do and who will it help?
At its core, the family preservation bill is about keeping families together whenever it's safe to do so. Too often, when a parent is struggling, especially with substance use, we default to separation instead of support. This bill shifts that approach. It focuses on providing resources, treatment, and stabilization so that parents can stay connected to their children while working on their recovery. We know that outcomes are better when families can stay intact and when parents are supported instead of punished. This bill helps parents, children, and entire communities by reducing trauma and creating a pathway for healing instead of disruption.
It's great. So at the point of sentencing, it'll be the judge. The judge will have the ability to take into consideration the family relationships and the sort of parentage of kids, so that to presumably reduce the number of families that are being torn apart in this way. I mean, to me, this is exactly the kind of common ground bipartisan bill that we love to see passing even in a conservative state like Kentucky, because, this is a state that talks about family values. And I think we all know how important it is for families to stay together and for kids to grow up with their parents around whenever possible. So hopefully it'll make an impact from day one. As soon as it's signed, judges are going to be able to start using this policy.
Hopefully so. That's the hope.
So you talked a little bit about this before. What are some of the past bills that have passed in Kentucky? One of the ones that we all worked on that we were really happy with a few years ago was the fentanyl testing strip bill that decriminalized fentanyl testing strips, something that we'll never know exactly how many lives were impacted by that, but certainly I'm sure some lives were saved by people being able to test and know if they were, before they took fentanyl and got either seriously harmed or even killed by it. That was a bill that passed in a bipartisan way. There have been other bills that have passed in a bipartisan manner, and then this one did too. But what's next? I mean, what are some other issues in Kentucky that you're really excited to tackle in the years ahead?
Well, Clean Slate.
Yeah. How did Clean Slate do this year?
Automated expungement. Well, we made it further than we've ever made it before. We passed it through Senate Judiciary, and that's the hardest committee to get anything through. So I'm super proud of us. We got it through that committee. It stalled in the Senate floor, but we will be back next session.
That's great. For people who are listening who might be from New York or California or Midwestern states, the Kentucky legislative season is like very short. It's like you gotta have your bills moving by March if you have any chance of passing them, right?
Absolutely. Senator Storm just filed ours, in March. So it should have been, but automated expungement, there was just lots of opposition from judges and county attorneys,
Well, good luck on it next year. And so let me throw in a question that is kind of criminal justice related. I mean, you can answer it in the context of criminal justice or zooming out, but you have a governor there, Governor Beshear, who's been a strong leader on a number of issues in Kentucky, and he's been talking about running for president. Just for people who are trying to figure out who he is for the first time, what's something you'd want to share about your experience under his leadership?
I think Governor Beshear has played an important role in elevating conversations around recovery and workforce participation in Kentucky. What I always look for, regardless of who's in office, is a willingness to listen to the people most impacted and to support policies that actually remove barriers to stability. If Kentucky continues to prioritize recovery, reentry, and economic opportunity, that's something worth building on at any level.
For sure. I know that he's certainly on this issue. We've seen him veto bad bills, sign good ones, and be that kind of person who listens to directly impacted voices. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Selena. Congratulations for a really good session. And one extra last thing, we're about to start our Dream Justice Cohort, year 6. Do you want to share anything about what your experience was like and anything that you'd want to share about what people should know about the program?
I think it is the best mentorship program or cohort that I've ever been in. I've been in a lot. I think it is the best, and it's actually like real information that you will use boots on the ground in your everyday life, whether it be at work, in personal, whatever. And you get to just be immersed in all the different people that are a part of Dream and their experiences and their knowledge, and it's just the best, hands down. You get to go to Oakland now. We didn't get to do that. We went to different places, but now you get to go to Oakland for a week, so you must do it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for doing it in the past. I love how alums are always supportive of the new classes. I'm sure you'll find a way to help out. Thank you so much for your time, Selena, and see you around, whether it's in Oakland, Kentucky, or otherwise.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you want to learn more about our 2 guests today, be sure to check out the links in the description. That's all for now. Be safe, and remember, don't quit your daydream.